Are you ready to take your message, your business, and your life to the next level?
Want to learn from someone with more than a decade of experience, training tens of thousands of people from all around the world?
Hi, Cliff. This is Pauline from Auckland, New Zealand.
John from Calgary, Alberta.
Amy Porterfield.
Michael Hyatt.
Dan here from Dunedin, New Zealand.
Ray Edwards. Mark Mason. Mike Stelzner.
Pat from Smart Passive Income.
It's Darren from Melbourne, Australia.
Now is the time to live the life of your dreams and do the work you feel most called to do in the world.
Welcome to the Cliff Ravenscraft Show.
Here's your host, Cliff Ravenscraft.
That's right, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. And today I have a few different things I want to share with you. I'm going to share with you a tech tip that I had forgotten about until just recently, and I'm so glad that I've been reminded of it. And I have recently benefited from something that has benefited me so many times in the past. I believe it will benefit you, and I can't believe that I've gone so long without using it, and I just have those things that I forget about from time to time. Anyway, I'm going to share that with you in just a moment. I'm also going to share with you a little insight into what's going on in my mind when it comes to why I make the decisions that I make in my business, to put my focus where my focus has been, and why, well, maybe my business doesn't look like other people's businesses when certainly I have all of the resources to make potentially have all of the resources to make those things happen. And some, I think what I do sometimes confuses a number of people, but we all have a different path, a different journey in life, and I'm going to share a little insight into my world in this episode as well. But let me just kick off with that thing that I hinted about just a few moments ago, a resource that I use that I haven't used in a while that has been a huge blessing. So I recently launched a brand new mastermind group, a third mastermind group. And in the most recent meeting that we had, which was yesterday, one of the individuals who was in the hot seat said, listen, I just finished reading this book called Deep Work. I think it's by Cal Newport. And he says, I've heard of this concept before, but I didn't have this language. And he goes, I want to get into more intentional, blocked out times where I can do deep work. And I just wanted to get some feedback and some advice on how do you do this and where you're not distracted all the time. And of course, he's talking about the fact that people are emailing him and phone calls are coming in. This guy is not full-time self-employed. He's an attorney and works in a law firm. And so there's a lot of people that want his attention. And quite frankly, it's his daily responsibilities to be available to a lot of those people. So his question was, what advice, what techniques, what tactics do you think that I could employ to maybe 2 or 3 times a week get 90 minutes blocked out for nothing but distraction-free deep work? That was his big thing he brought to his hot seat. And myself and 5 other guys who were on the call poured into him and gave him a lot of valuable insights. And some of those things just off the top of my head were, number one, he'd already played around with this idea of putting a do not disturb sign on your door and letting everybody in the office that says, listen, I need to be distraction free. We talked about if he's got a telephone system in the office, there should be the ability for you to put it into a do not disturb mode so that even your secretary can't buzz in. But of course, you'd want to let the secretary know that that you are unavailable, and that if she tries to buzz through, she should get some kind of indicator that that's not going through, and that she should hold your calls. And we talked about taking your phone and putting it in do not disturb mode, and how to adjust your notification settings on your desktop so that they don't come through, and maybe even changing your environment a bit. One person said that what worked for them is they can't do the quote unquote deep work or haven't experienced deep work at the office, so they go to a coffee shop. But one of the things that I notice is that there's these fluorescent lights that he works under all day, every day. And I said, you might want to consider getting something like one of those reading lamps that you would go behind a reading a chair that you would sit in your home if you have a little nook in your bedroom where you got a reading chair. You can get these lamps that are floor lamps, and I would encourage you to put a nice warm light, like the old incandescent bulbs, and then go in and when you're in deep work mode, not only do you put the do not disturb sign and you shut off all the notifications, do everything else everybody else said, but another thing to do that you can change the environment is during deep work sessions, you flip off the fluorescent lights and you turn on this nice, warm, incandescent feeling light, this warm light. And it's a little bit more darker, more peaceful, and everything that you would need to have at your disposal for your deep work session is still right there in the office, but it's still a slightly different environment just by changing the lighting. The lighting can change the mood, and it kind of psychologically can set your brain to say, hey, something's different here, and when I'm in this lighting, I'm in this mode. And then, of course, as soon as your deep work session, if it's an hour or 90 minutes, as soon as it's finished, turn that lamp off and turn your lights back on, and let your mind become conditioned to that's what these two different environments are for. So some amazing stuff. But then it occurred to me, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm going to give you an advice about something that I haven't thought about for a very long time. And I'm going to take the audio recording from the mastermind group, and it's pretty much just me speaking here, so I'm not sharing anything confidential. You may hear one or two other people on the call. You may hear their voice in a quick response or something like that. But what I'm going to share with you is what I recommended, this tool that I had not used for so long. But man, am I so glad this came up in conversation. I'm glad that you've brought this up because have you ever had a system or a tool or a technique that every single time you use it, it absolutely works without fail? It's never failed you. It's the most awesome thing. But for some reason, you get out of the habit of using it and you almost forget that it exists.
Yes.
I want to tell you that's Focus at Will. So first of all, it's focusatwill.com. And it says on their homepage, scientifically optimized music to help you focus. So Frank was just talking about the fact that he'll turn his chair away from his computer, but it's also where all of a sudden the door is behind him. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a part of our brain that is always actively looking out for danger. Sometimes we have a very difficult time focusing on our work because, well, there's some potential unknown danger that could come out of nowhere, and your brain's always on the lookout for that. So what Focus at Will has done, and this was created by neurobiologists, they studied how the brain works, and this music will literally hypnotize that part of your brain, so that if you listen to this music in the background while you're working, it literally will hypnotize that part of the brain so it is no longer looking behind you. Now, the thing is, somebody comes in, they're going to freak you out. You're going to be like, what the heck just happened? Now, I want to tell you, it sounds a little woo-woo, but if you read up on it on their website, it's absolutely real. There's a timer that you can choose to use or not use. I highly encourage you to use it, because here's what happens to me. I will set it for 45 minutes, and I'll put that on in the background, and I go in, I start working on something. It's like, okay. And next thing I know, it goes ding, and I'm like, it's only been like 3 minutes. No, it's been 45 minutes. And I just did more in 45 minutes than I normally accomplish in 3 days. So that's my personal testimonial for Focus at Will. And it's worked every single time for me that I've used it. And by the way, I have gone in crazy. I did like a 3-hour Focus at Will session. And it's insane what I can accomplish with Focus at Will. So I'm glad you brought this up just for that purpose alone.
So Cliff, that's not something you're using throughout the day, every day though, right? It's just for larger projects, or? It's
just when I'm like, I need to sit down and I need to focus, I need to concentrate, and I need to get out of my own head. And this music in the background, and it's matter of fact, have you guys ever like tried to do work with music in the background? If you read the articles on here, that is the worst thing you can do, because what are you going to do? You choose music that you like, and your brain is actually listening to the music because you enjoy it, and so you're pulling your focus towards the music. Now, the music can still help you get in a better mood, and being in a better mood can help you get more done, but it doesn't help you get more focused. And so the idea is that with this music, you literally hear it, but you don't consciously know that it's playing. And in fact, there is a skip button on there. So I'm going to give you a little tip if you guys try to use this service. If you ever, during your work that you're doing while listening to this music, if all of a sudden you start noticing the music, it's like, oh, that's really cool, or that beat's a little distracting, immediately reach over and click the forward button. It will skip the song. It will never play that song for you again, because the idea is that you should not recognize that this song this music's being played in the background. It's to get out of the way and out of the distractions. Real quickly, if you want to know what my favorite there's so many channels. My favorite channels are ambient. I think there's a channel called Ambient. There's classical piano. There is Focus Spa, and there is also Cinematic. Those are the 4 channels I like, and in every single one of them, I prefer medium intensity. Well, there you go. As you can tell, I was really excited about the fact that this just reoccurred to me, and I want to give you a little follow-up of what happened today. I saw a post from Clint, who happens to be the person that was in the hot seat. And this morning, he posted, he said, he put in Basecamp, which was what we use for our discussion forum. He says, "Focus at will" is the subject line. He said, "I just finished an 80-minute deep work session with Focus at Will in the background. That is a real difference maker, ! Thanks, Cliff." So that was awesome. And then Jason, who happens to be another member of that group, he said, "Nice, Clint. I too am enjoying the Focus at Will experience." He says, it's funny how when I actually, quote unquote, noticed the music, instead of normally turning it up and thinking, hey, this is actually catchy, I have to condition myself to hit the skip button instead. And so these guys are already implementing that valuable resource. And the funny thing is that today I had a bunch of data entry stuff that needed to be done. And it's that type of data entry stuff that, quite frankly, it bores me to tears. It's accounting, bookkeeping stuff. And yes, I know I can hire bookkeepers and have somebody else do all of that stuff. But the reality is that it's something that Stephanie and I only do once a month, and we knock it out in 2 to 3 hours once a month, and it's all good. But the thing is I really don't like the stuff that I do right before Stephanie comes down. It's just like, really, why am I doing this? But the thing is I fired up on my iPad today, Focus at Will. I think I turned it on Cinematic and medium intensity, and I set it for, I think it was 25 minutes. And I did in 25 minutes, which was something that would have normally taken me 45 minutes to an hour to do today. But not only that, but exactly what I said in that mastermind group setting yesterday, that 25 minutes, I was in perfect flow state, because by the end of the 25 minutes, I was working that entire 25 minutes, but I could swear to you, it was like 3 minutes. It went that fast. It was that easy. It was that natural. I can't believe that I forgot about Focus at Will. And by the way, I looked. I still have an account with them, and I think I'm on an annual subscription. And I was on Focus at Will back when it was really, really cheap. I mean, when they first started Focus at Will. Anyway, I know it's more expensive today. And I do want to let you know, I do have an affiliate program with them. I think they have a lifetime account. And now, trust me, you do not want to go for the lifetime account right away if you're not going to just take my word for it. So I would encourage you to check out, go to mindsetanswerman.com/focus@will. I forgot to give them these guys are over there checking out Focus at Will, and I didn't give them my affiliate link. But that's okay. It's not all about the money anyway. But mindsetanswerman.com/focus@will. If they have a free trial, sign up for the free trial. See if it works for you, like I've talked about here. And then if you decide that you want to sign up, just know that I will get a commission if you went through mindsetanswerman.com/focus@will, all spelled out. And the one thing that I do know is that they have this lifetime VIP subscription. I think it's $299 or something like that, or it's just a couple $100. But if this thing is as valuable to you, having a lifetime membership to this service, and the question is, gosh, if I pay all this and it's a lifetime membership, what if they go out of business? All these internet startup businesses and stuff like that, they don't all stick around. I can tell you this, Focus at Will has been around for several years now, and it's been at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 years. Actually, gosh, I know it goes all the way back to 2014, because I remember in November 2014, I was talking about this at a one-day business mastermind that I co-hosted with Ray Edwards. So there you go. That's the tech tip I wanted to share with you. All right. Now, okay, so I confuse a lot of people, I think, when it comes to the way that I do my business. Many of you have been following my journey. You know that I made a very, very huge pivot in my focus in what I do for a living. Built my brand as the Podcast Answer Man for over a decade. And after that, I made a decision. I want to become the Mindset Answer Man. I want to be a business mentor, a life coach, and a motivational speaker. That's who I am. I believe I've come to the understanding that these in and of themselves are highly marketable skills that would add tremendous value to people's lives, and that those who purchased my products or services or listen to the content related to this content, it would have a profound and positive and even trackable return on investment for people. And once I became convinced of that, I'm like, why am I doing the podcast coaching and consulting stuff? Because when I left my career in insurance, I said, I wonder what life would be like if I could do this for a living instead of insurance. And this wasn't necessarily podcasting. It was investing in people's lives in a way that was encouraging them, inspiring them, motivating them. And it had a lot to do with the way that I was processing the things that I was learning, my successes, my failures, the goals that I was setting, how I was achieving them, the obstacles in my way, how I was overcoming them, and more importantly, my mindset and my focus on the fact that I was not going to give up. And I just never saw it at the time as being a marketable skill. So I'm like, well, if I'm going to leave my career in insurance, how am I going to pay the bills? Well, I know that people will pay me to teach them how to podcast because, well, I was already making a couple $1,000s a month just doing it as a hobby on the side. And I'm like, I think if I was to go full time and live the career in insurance, I could really make a living doing this. And that was teaching people how to podcast. But that's not why I left my career in insurance. I left my career in insurance so I could do what I consider to be my mission in the world. And it was almost as though, it's like, listen, I'm going to do a career as a podcast coach and consultant so that it will pay for my ministry work that I do in the world. And then I'm like, well, and the transition that I made is I wonder if it's possible to do my ministry work, or my mission, my purpose, what I was put on this planet to do, what I believe God knew in advance when He created me that this was the work that I would do. I wonder if it's possible to make a living doing that. And I've since learned that it is. So I've shared a couple times that I have this dream, this vision of the future. It's not something that I can tell you that I'm actively like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till this happens. But I have this vision of myself hosting stadium-sized events, tens of thousands of people who are attending live events in a stadium that I'm hosting, that I'm literally on stage, and those people came mostly because, well, I'm putting this event together. They're there to hear me speak. Not just me. I would probably always have other speakers come and share valuable insights. I have lots of peers and mentors and special people in my life that I trust amazing at an amazing level for them to come and share directly what I've learned from them. And I did that at Free the Dream Conference with Dan Miller and Ken Davis and Ray Edwards and Leslie Samuel and PJ Jonas and Daphne Scott and Giovanna Ellison and John C. I could go on. I think we had 12 total speakers at Free the Dream 2018. It was incredible. But the thing is I've shared very publicly that I have a desire one day to put a minimum of 10,000 people in a stadium. I think at the earliest I was thinking, 40, 50,000 people in a stadium. The thing is at that time, I'd never really known what 40 to 50,000 people in a stadium actually looked like. Maybe I'd been at a sporting event where there's close to that, but I've since gone to several stadium events, concerts with, 20, 30,000 people. And I'm like, okay, that's what this looks like, what this feels like. Yeah, okay. And then, of course, I see Tony Robbins doing many events per year. I'd say he's probably doing 8, 10, 12 events a year. And I know his UPW events tend to bring somewhere between 6,000 to 12,000 people per event. He's doing that several times a year, all over the U.S. and actually in around the world as well. I just saw he just did one in London. So I'm thinking, okay, well, Tony's been doing this for years and he's got 10,000. Thing is my vision is still somewhere right around there. A minimum 10,000 people in an event. That's my vision. That's what when I actually I think about the future, where my journey is leading me, I just see that. And there's a ton of people who believe it as much as I do. And there are a handful of people who have more faith that it's actually not only going to happen, but it'll happen much faster than I believe it will happen. And and again, this is a vision and a dream of the future, but it's not necessarily a stated goal that I'm going to get there. There are times when I think of it almost as a goal, but I've never put a date on it. When am I going to host that first stadium? Now, here's the interesting thing. I've already started my first conference with Free the Dream 2018. We're already selling tickets. I think we're about $20,000 in ticket sales already for Free the Dream 2019, which, by the way, if you haven't got your tickets yet, you want to get them before the price goes up, head over to freethedreamconference.com. It's this September, and that is over at freethedreamconference.com. It's going to be in Franklin, Tennessee, September 13th through the 15th. It is going to be incredible. If you haven't done so already, go over and watch the highlight reel just from the look and feel of that venue. It's an incredible space. It's an incredible event, and you'll certainly be hearing more about it from me in the very near future. But the thing is I've already hosted that first event, or the first event. I've already scheduled, and we're selling tickets to the second annual event of this. And I have already had conversations with my event planners, and I already know how much it costs to reserve per day the Predator Stadium. And it's right around $100,000 per day to have access to that venue, which is actually way more affordable than I thought it would be. Now, there's a lot more expenses that go along with that and things of that nature. But again, I'm not in a rush for that dream to be fulfilled. In fact, I will tell you that I actually have some concerns about what life will be like, what will be required of me when I am at that level. And yes, I just used that language when I am at that level. I'm under the assumption that it will happen. Now, the crazy thing is I was tempted the other day to pull out that whole in 10 to 15 years from now, maybe I'll have this stadium event. And my friend Ray Edwards pointed this out to me because, Cliff, you keep saying 10 to 15 years, and I loved it when he asked me this question: why not next year? And of course, then that's a great question, and I've learned the value of a question like that. And of course, then all the limiting beliefs get exposed, and certainly I have eliminated a ton of limiting beliefs by answering that question. And realistically, I could potentially see my first stadium event with 10,000 people within five years. I think that is within the realm of not only possibility, it's within the realm of potential likelihood. Now, I'm very careful and I'm intentional with the words that I'm using, is because I'm not sure that I want it to happen 5 years from now. But when I think about 10 years from now, well, gosh, I'd be 55. If we go, actually 56. And then, if I say 15 years from now, I'd be 61. And it's not that I can't do this stuff when I'm in my late 50s and in my 60s. And chances are I will be doing it then. I don't know how. Let me ask this. I'm going to pause for a second. I want to ask Alexa how old Tony Robbins is. Okay, so I've just learned that Tony Robbins is 59 years old. So Tony Robbins is doing it at 59, and the cool thing is that I think that in a health and fitness lifestyle that I've got going on for myself right now, I think I'm going to be very vibrant and definitely be able to pull that off even when I get to that age. But the thing is I don't know that I necessarily want to wait that long, but I don't necessarily know that I am eager to make it happen in the next 2 to 3 years. So I can tell you that as I progress forward, I see it becoming more and more inevitable that this vision will actually come to fulfillment. And I believe that it will come much quicker than I anticipate. And I think that over the next 2 to 3 years, there will be a ton of personal growth that's going to happen in my life, and several more beliefs that will be limiting beliefs that will be eliminated through the process of the next 2 to 3 years. There will have to be some rewiring of blueprints about how life ought to be in certain ways, in certain areas. Thoughts about fame, thoughts about, and I'm not even actively pursuing fame at this point, and I have some concerns about the fame and the number of people who would come up to me, consistently out in public in restaurants, especially if it were, very close to the event and stuff like that. Would I be able to go out? Would I lose my anonymity? And not to mention a bunch of other things that we'll deal with those when they come. But anyway, so a lot of people know that I have this vision of the future, this 10,000 plus stadium event, or tens of thousands. And so, but I've also been very authentic, not just here in this podcast, but I have another podcast where I give a ton of behind the scenes insights into what goes on in my mind and as it relates to my business. It's called the Audio Journal Podcast. You can find that at mindsetanswerman.com/audio journal. Anyway, I was sharing there, and I had a member of my community who emailed me. His name is Eric Wachter. Anyway, he emailed me this email with the subject line, what would happen if Cliff would coach Cliff? And he says, listening to you over the past few weeks, it seems like you maybe have started to drift a bit. And by the way, this was back on April 19th that he sent this email. And it was before I released last week's episode called Confession Time. And it was also right before I posted the episode about when content is hard to create. And it was right during that period of time where I was in the 3 weeks of absolutely zero routine because of my trip to San Diego, the Thriving Marriage Workshop, and then spring break, all back to back, and not much forethought given in advance that all of that was all going to happen so compact with one another. And of course, talked about the fact that we did this Thriving Marriage Workshop, and rather than focusing on the marketing for Free the Dream 2019, we decided to do this right in between spring break and San Diego, this Thriving Marriage Workshop, and that it was profitable for us, but it generated a total of $2,000 in profit, which is not terrible, but the question is how much more could I have generated had I certainly could have sold more than $2,000 worth of tickets for the 6 weeks that we spent working on putting that together. And those are kinds of things that I've shared very publicly, and maybe here in this podcast, it depends. I have a hard time remembering everything that I've put where, but I've shared in a lot of places, just bits and pieces of all this journey. So here's what Eric said. He says, listening to you over the past few weeks, it seems that you started drifting a little, like there's a lack of clarity where your focus needs to be. It's like you haven't found your feet yet in your new direction. I can see that you're extremely passionate about your new direction, which is Mindset Answer Man, business mentoring, life coaching, and stuff like that. He says, in particular, you're very passionate about the marriage course with your wife, but I can also see that you're frustrated as it's not as financially rewarding as you'd like it to be. That's true. Here's the one thing I can tell you, and by the way, I did an entire podcast episode of the Audio Journal called "What If Cliff Would Coach Cliff?" Because he says this. He goes, that made me ask myself the question: what would Cliff do if Cliff hired Cliff as a coach? Basically, what advice would you give to somebody who has this goal of tens of thousands of people in a conference? And your client, your mentoring or your coaching client, came to you and said, this is my goal, this is my vision of the future, this is what I want to do. But they had all of the different things that you have going on. You've got, 3 different mastermind groups now. You've had this building an online business workshop. You've got the Free the Dream conference, and then you launched this, just out of the blue, you launched this Thriving Marriage Workshop. It seems to me like you have a lack of clarity of where your focus should be. Now, I did an entire podcast episode titled "What Would Happen if Cliff Would Coach Cliff?" And I'll just give you the summary is I've been coaching myself through the entire process. And the one thing I will tell you is that there has not been a lack of clarity whatsoever. So I have actual crystal clear clarity, more clarity about who I am, what it is that I'm meant to do, what direction I'm heading in, the ultimate goal of where I'm going, and I have a very clear picture of how to get there. What I don't have exactly is the time frame of where the ultimate end game will happen. When it will grow to the point of the tens of thousands, and that's not necessarily all that concerning to me at all. But I have been coaching myself. There's a reason why I chose to do the mastermind groups in addition to doing the conference. There's certainly a reason why I was doing the building an online business workshops, and there is a very clear reason why Stephanie and I decided to spend a total of 6 weeks investing in a Thriving Marriage Workshop. And so I got to tell you, I'm super excited that I've made all of the decisions that I've made since shutting down Podcast Answer Man. What I can tell you is that I've made some decisions in the past, year and a half plus, that I have made some decisions in the past year and a half that have caused me some financial stress just following Free the Dream as a result of some limiting beliefs about marketing and my lack of my ignorance of how to market something like a live event compared to what I've always marketed in the past. But yeah, the thing is there was a definite financial stress that was created as a result of a void financially. But here's the cool thing is number one, we've Stephanie and I have remained debt free since February 2007. So where is my focus? My focus is on the fact that we became debt free in February 2007 as a married couple. With the exception of our mortgage, but that's our what we consider to be debt free. That was when I was still an insurance agent, and then I launched this business on January 1st, 2008, and it was in 2008 that, or I think it was late 2008, early 2009 that the entire economy of the United States crashed like big time. And through all of that, not only did we survive, but it was through that economy crash that we started to thrive. That's when things started to pick up for us. And we maintained our debt-free status through all of that. And then we got to the place where, gosh, I built podcasting A to Z and Podcast Answer Man as a brand, my podcast coaching and consulting. I've over the past decade, many millions of dollars worth of products and services that have been sold. And I not that anybody needs to know all the details, but on average, right about $500,000 a year is what Podcast Answer Man and podcast coaching and consulting would generate in our business. So it's not terrible. My overhead is low, and so it gave us a very awesome living for sure. Then I shut down 100% of all of my income streams, like literally everything related to podcasting that I had to sell. All of that was taken away. I took it all away. I didn't want to be known as the Podcast Answer Man, and I didn't want somebody buying a product or a service from me and then having a quick technical question, because I wanted to focus as much of my time, a minimum. My goal was I want to spend a minimum of 80% of my time directly in the center of my what is called zone of genius, and I have succeeded in that. So there's still 20% of my work that I do that's inside of my zone of excellence. I will admit to you, there are a few things that I do that are inside of my zone of competence, such as bookkeeping. And on the very rare occasion, I'm tempted to dabble a little bit inside of my zone of incompetence and to bring myself up to a level of competence in those areas. But that's only if things are a little bit more financially tight than they need to be. But the reality is I completely replaced. In 18 months, I was able to completely replace my income. The thing is, though, is Free the Dream 2018, while it was an incredible event, it was not financially prosperous that first year. And from what I hear, that's not to be unexpected. There are many people who consider conferences, live events, to be loss leaders. Now, I can tell you right now that my standard and my expectation for my events are not loss leaders. I look for future events and starting with Free the Dream 2019 to be a profitable stream of income inside of our business, that it will be definitely profitable. I'm going for more than break even is what I'm saying here. And that's my expectation, that's my plan, and that's what I'm going after. But the first year wasn't. And so, and there was a lot of income that was going down because I had these mastermind, and I did not, for some reason, anticipate anybody ever dropping out, and I wasn't adding new people, and so my monthly income there was a bigger and bigger deficit. And by the end of September, I thought Free the Dream would sell so many tickets that it would certainly fill up. It would certainly cover any of the deficit was there that in those months prior to it. And then when it wasn't, it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And so it was a stressor. I did not anticipate. And I went to crazy mad working on this. And here's the deal. That was in September of last year. And as of April of this year, April 1st of this year, not only did I dig myself out and pay back all of the deficit from all of the months leading up to September of last year, I maintained what needed to be as my minimum income in my business, which is a significant amount, and paid back everything. So it's kind of like I've brought in twice as much as I normally do over the past 5 months. So yeah, I've done a couple of workshops and I've done a couple things where there's been an extra $10, $15, or even $20,000 above and beyond what normally will come in. And it's allowed me to not only catch up financially, but now I'm in a position where, wow, I am back into the place where I was about a year ago. In May of 2018, I was in a position where I was making as much money as I was doing podcasting A to Z, which, by the way, podcasting A to Z took me about 40 hours a week to do for 4 weeks, every other month. So 6 months out of the year, I was working 40 hours a week to generate the amount of income that I'm making today. And to make the amount of income that I'm making today, I'm required to work 3 to 5 hours a week. So I'm very thrilled with my business and the decisions that I've made. So there was this one question that came in here. It's from Eric, and by the way, Eric's a great guy. I've since sent him a link to I sent him a copy of the audio recording from the Audio Journal, and he since has become a paid subscriber to the Audio Journal and sent me a follow-up, which I'm going to read to you in just a moment. But also from that first email, he says in that email he said, your Green Room Mastermind friend, Pat Flynn, has managed to move from a one-man band to a complete team working together to serve as many as possible. What's stopping you from following his example? And this is a genuine question that he has, but I feel like based upon the overall email, there's the assumption that that's my end goal, that's something that is to be expected. It's something that's required to be able to fulfill my purpose and my vision of growing my business. So I did not address this question, I don't believe, in my Audio Journal episode. And I want to address this real quick for those who are a little confused. So I love Pat Flynn. He and I have been doing a weekly mastermind together since October 2008. And I've watched Pat in October 2008, Pat was where I was. Pat was in 2008 where I was in 2014. All right. So he's always been way ahead of me when it comes to the success on the financial level and the audience level and everything like that. But the thing is I've never compared myself to Pat Flynn. I celebrate his success. I think what he's doing is awesome. And the most important thing to me is that Pat is happy with the life that he has. Pat is happy with the business that he has. And one thing I know from the very first time I ever had a conversation with Pat, when he hired me as a podcast coach and consultant, he says, Cliff, the one thing that is most important to me is that I never allow myself to get my business to where it takes me away from my first love, which is my wife and my kids. Actually, he had one kid at the time, Keone, and so. But he's like, listen, that they are my number one. And at the time, he would work late at night, and he would spend his days with his kid, and that was the life that he wanted. And of course, things have shifted for him in his direction. Now, his wife and his kids are definitely still his priority. He's always maintained that standard. But the thing is Pat's income went up, and his opportunities. The size of his audience went up. He had lots of amazing opportunities that have come his way. He was prepared for those opportunities. He was well positioned, and he's taken a significant number of risks. And so much of what Pat has done has paid off in incredible ways. And yeah, Pat has an entire team of people. In fact, he actually has employees. I mean, he for a while, you know, he had contracted workers and stuff like that. But he's moving. My friend Pat Flynn is an employer today, which I think is great for him. But I can tell you right now, the question is if the idea is that Pat has managed to move from this one man band to a complete team working together. And it's not that I don't want a complete team working together, and it's not that I'm trying to avoid a complete team working together, but I don't want it right now. I like my solopreneur life. No, that is inaccurate. I love my solopreneur life. I love the fact that I don't have anybody else's financial lives on the line, and that I'm not currently responsible for making payroll. I mean, as I've shared with you, let's just say Podcast Answer Man. Well, that's not true. Maybe if I would have done the whole team and employees and set things up with Podcast Answer Man and stuff like that, maybe I could have got Podcast Answer Man where it would have been generating a profit without me needing to be involved, and those people would be working, and I'd make a significant profit, and it would have allowed me to do all this without financial pressure that I've experienced over the past 18 months. It's still, quite frankly, I'm just glad I didn't have to deal with any of the pressure of personality conflicts and dealing with leadership of people over this past 18 months. I still got a significant amount of work in leading myself, and it's not that I'm not capable of leading other people. It's just not been a dream or a desire of mine. I know some friends of mine. I know people who have significant teams, and they have employees, and they have payroll requirements. And the one thing that I know is that at this moment in time, I have a lot more freedom, maybe not as much freedom financially as those guys do, but I certainly have a lot more freedom in being able to just shift on a dime. I don't have to run it by anybody. If I decide to shut down 100% stream of income and do something completely different, I can do that. If I want to reinvent myself, I can do that. If I decide to do something, it's a terrible mistake, and it like kills 70% of my income, and it was a stupid thing, I don't have to worry about whether or not somebody else's payroll is going to... I got my own payroll, right? That's it. So I kind of like the position that I'm in now. And so it's not a desire. The one thing I can tell you, though, is that I do have clarity about the decisions that I've made. And the mastermind groups that I do are my primary source of recurring revenue, and there's a reason that I do them. And everything that I do in those groups certainly fits in with my identity as a business mentor, a life coach, aka mindset coach, and also this motivational speaker that puts on this event to help people pursue their dreams and the lives for which they were created. Everything that I do in those mastermind groups, every conversation and every hot seat certainly is in complete 100% alignment with Free the Dream, and also a lot of the other products and services that I'm currently working on these days. My Building an Online Business workshops, the Thriving Marriage Workshop. Now, Stephanie and I did this Thriving Marriage Workshop, and the reason why we chose to focus on that, in spite of the fact that, certainly we should probably get working on that Free the Dream 2019 marketing stuff, right? One of the reasons why we focused on it is because we saw a genuine need in the lives of a couple marriages, and our heart would not let us move on without creating this, knowing that Free the Dream is not going to be the only conference that we ever host. We will do a marriage conference as well. That matter of fact, a marriage conference was on the planning. We were planning a marriage conference before we were planning Free the Dream. But then it became evident that Free the Dream should come first. We did that. But from Free the Dream, we met several married couples, and we heard some testimonials about how their lives were impacted. And it was very clear after several folks joined Stephanie's mastermind group that she facilitates that, we need to create something for married couples to come here to do a workshop where we can talk about communication and how to resolve conflict and just the stuff that we learned early on in our marriage that radically transformed our lives. And that was the intention, with the idea that if we go ahead and do this workshop, number one, we're going to be able to serve these couples in a significant way, and I think we both believe they would see transformation. That would be a worthy investment of our time. Not only that, but once it's created, it's something that we can then duplicate easily. It wouldn't take us 6 weeks to plan it. It's just, choosing a new date and sending out a couple emails and then doing it on a weekend. It would be, any subsequent event workshop would be far more profitable. And not only that, it's just like what I've done in the past. That workshop can easily get momentum and build into the conference, the marriage conference that we'll do. So there was plenty of reasons why we chose to do it. And one of the reasons was not what happened, but here's the interesting thing that happened. 4 married couples came to the Thriving Marriage Workshop, and every married couple there was wildly and positively and profoundly impacted. Their marriages were radically impacted by this event that Stephanie and I hosted. Now, Stephanie hosts a mastermind called the Free to Thrive Mastermind Group for Women, and it's all about helping women break free from anything that's keeping them from living the lives of their dreams that they were created to live. And 2 of the married couples, the wives, were already a member of Stephanie's group. So there were 2 other couples, and after the Free Thriving Marriage Workshop, one of the ladies that came that wasn't in Stephanie's mastermind group immediately came back, and the next week applied for Stephanie's mastermind group, is now a part of that group as well. And here's the interesting thing. All 4 men from the 4 married couples from the Thriving Marriage Workshop, all 100%, every single man who came to that workshop applied for and is now in my new mastermind group that I've recently launched. And so this is what I'm saying when I say that all these things, they kind of tie in together. Thriving Marriage Workshop, anybody who's married, who's in our community, we know that this could be an extremely valuable, transformative event. We actually chose to do a mastermind session during the final half of the final half of the final day of the workshop. And that gave everyone there a feel of just what it's like to have a hot seat in a mastermind group setting. And we didn't do that to try to convince those people to join our mastermind groups. It just had that effect, and it's just a proof of how naturally that fits in. And the thing is all these people who are in all of the mastermind groups that I'm facilitating, I would just say that almost all of them, I would assume almost all of them will be in Franklin, Tennessee this year. And certainly a large number of mastermind members were there in Free the Dream 2018. But man, the buzz afterwards, this all fits together. And again, it's not me trying to say, oh my gosh, I wonder if I can just take these people and create new products where they all buy every product that I have. That's not been my intended outcome. But what I can tell you is that, man, everything that Stephanie and I are doing in this business together, none of it's done just for the money. It's done because Stephanie and I definitely feel called to create the products and services that we are creating. And there are times when we've said, this will not be as profitable as other opportunities that we could pursue with this time. But do you also agree with me that this is the right thing that we're supposed to focus on right now? And Stephanie's like, absolutely. Yes, we need to do the Thriving Marriage Workshop. So was there a lack of clarity? No, it not at all. Was it financially profitable? No. I mean, $2,000, but still, there was other things I could have done would have generated a lot more money. But that wasn't generating significant profit was not the intention for us when we first set it out. Long term, will it be a profitable thing? Yes, absolutely. And all of this stuff, will the mastermind groups grow? I'm thinking that I see I have more capacity for more groups than just the 3 that I have. There's some room in the AM group of the Next Level Mastermind. There's a few seats left in the PM group of the Next Level Mastermind. So there's some room for growth there, but man, if it gets to it, would I launch a 4th group? Absolutely. I love facilitating mastermind groups. I am inside my zone of genius when I lead those. I am impacting people in a significant way, and it's why I do what I do. And it feeds them in what they need. It feeds me in my need for fulfillment in the work that I do. And quite frankly, because of the mastermind groups and an occasional workshop here and there, and especially now that we've got the planning out of the way, with the mastermind groups alone, that will cover all of our business expenses. You throw in an extra one-on-one mentoring session with somebody, or a 1-day with Cliff package, or you throw in a building an online business workshop here and there, and that meets more than our needs financially. And what that does is it takes the pressure financially off of Free the Dream to be profitable. Now the thing is we want it to be profitable, and in fact, that's the mission, that's the plan, that's the goal. But the fact that Free the Dream 2018 cost us money and we were able to do that without going into debt, it's because I made the decisions that I coached myself to make. And so, yeah, I'm very happy with the decisions we made. Anyway, so I shared a lot of that, and I got a follow-up from Eric. He says, hey, I just listened to your audio journal. One of the things that he gave me as a follow-up, because I loved your feedback. As I was listening to you, I remembered what my original question was that made me decide to write to you. I was curious what your thoughts were going forwards towards your big goal of working on your business versus working in your business. So, and then he also says, I was curious of what your thoughts are around that. Do you think it's necessary to grow a team to reach such an amazing goal, or can that be done with a small team? All right, so I'm going to answer 2 different questions here. First of all, I was curious about what your thoughts were towards your big goal regarding working on your business versus working in your business. So I'm not sure, and okay, I'm open to the possibility that somewhere I went crazy and said something about the fact that my big goal is to work more on my business and not so much in it. But man, that does not sound like Cliff Ravenscraft. It doesn't. Now, let me tell you, I did do a whiteboard video on YouTube talking about the need to work on your business and not just in it. All right, you do need to schedule time to work on your business. And by the way, I do work on my business a lot. And I'm not just working in it. Right now, I'm working in my business, but I do spend a significant amount of time working on my business. And I did a YouTube vlog at my whiteboard talking about the need to do this because somebody asked me the question about it. But my goal is not to get to the place where I don't work in my business. You see, I think it was Michael E. Gerber in his book, what is it called? E-Myth Revisited. And in that book, I remember him saying something to the effect, and I am paraphrasing here, but I heard him, and it might be actually a direct quote. He said something like, the only reason anyone should ever start a business is so that they can one day sell it at a profit, and become financially wealthy. And the other, I don't know who said this, but I've heard at least 3, maybe 5 people have said this other sentiment. And that is that if you created a business that requires that you work every day in your business for it to stay alive, meaning that if you don't go to work and your business would die financially as a result, then you did not create a business. What you created is a job. You're not a business owner. You're self-employed. I've heard that like 3 to 5 times. And I got to tell you, I'm just like, whatever. You know what? The federal government defines my business as a business. I pay business taxes. I pay just as much. I contribute financially to the tax system as everyone else as a business. I get all of the benefits of a business owner. I get all of these amazing exemptions on my business expenses. There's so many benefits that come from me being a business owner. All right. And not to mention the fact that I do have flexibility and freedom in my schedule. I have margin and I can choose so many different things. So, but number one, I am not building a business that I look to sell one day. It's not my desire. Could I have sold my brand for Podcast Answer Man and Podcasting A to Z? Yes. Was I approached by more than one person to buy it? Yes. Did I sell it? No, because that's my reputation. That's my legacy of what I did there. And nobody else is going to move that forward. And yes, I was offered a significant amount of money for it. Don't want it. That I may pick it back up one day. You just never know. And so I'm not building what I'm building today. The life coaching and mentoring and stuff like that. I had a friend of a lunch meeting with a mentor of mine that if I said his name, you'd know who he was. Most of you would. And he's like, Cliff, so tell me how are you doing? Who are the next 3 people you need to hire for your business? And I said, I'm not really looking to do that. And he's talking to me about some of his recent acquisitions for employees and stuff like that. And he's like, man, you really ought to think about this. Because what got me to think is about legacy. And he's like, man, I want to build something like so and so did, and he named some people, and he's like, and then he named some other quote unquote people out there that quite frankly, I hear this name as much as anything else, but that person's family doesn't still own a business that's carrying on, or that company is not still impacting hundreds of thousands of people and stuff like that. It's like that right now. That's not my vision. It's not my dream. It's not my goal. Right now, my vision is to in this season of my life is to continue to serve the people that God has brought in my path, to do the work that I feel called to do every day, to have the freedom and flexibility in my schedule to spend a lot of time with my wife and my kids, I'm working out the details of figuring out how to turn these things into profitable new things. This all happened about a year ago, this conversation. I said, but I said, I appreciate your feedback, and man, any advice you ever give me is weighted heavily on my mind, and it influences me, but right now it doesn't influence me enough to tilt me in that direction of pursuing that. So right now, I'm not thinking about hiring anybody. I'm working with people on a contract basis. So yeah. The next question that this Eric in my community wrote, he says, do you think it's necessary to grow a team to reach such an amazing goal? So let's talk about this. Does it require for me to be able to build my business to a place where I could host an event at a stadium with 10,000 people? Do I need an entire team of people? Do I need, 3 or 4 people on my marketing team? Do I need a couple people on my social media team? Do I need a couple people? And do these people, first of all, do I need a team of people to help me pull it off? Yes. Do I need them as employees? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I was having this conversation with a friend of mine named Paul Klein, and he sent me an audio book. By the way, thank you for that, Paul, again. But he sent me an audio book called A Business of One, I think is what it's called. Actually, I'm looking here. It is A Company of One by Paul Jarvis. Anyway, I've been listening to that in the background as I've done some things over the last couple of days. And yeah, I totally agree with I would say at least 70% of what I'm hearing in this book. I think there's a couple limiting beliefs that were expressed in this book that I'm not in full agreement with. But for the most part, yeah, I'm not growing a business just for growth's sake or anything like that. I don't feel like I'll be more successful if I get to a certain financial level above, certain things. Do I want more wealth? Do I want to become independently wealthy? Yes. Do I think that requires that I grow a huge team? At this stage, if it does, then I'm okay with not doing it at this stage is where I'm at. So that's my thought on that. Here's what I can tell you. Free the Dream Conference, definitely, had I done everything that could be done to sell as many, Free the Dream 2018 literally was in a space that could have seated 1,000 people. I could have put 1,000 people in the room, and at 1,000 people, it definitely would have been a profitable event, and it would have actually cost me more money to put it together, but I would have had the ticket sales to certainly pay for that. It would have been a wildly profitable. At 1,000 people, it would have generated over a $500,000 in profit. Is that right? Yeah, 500. Yeah. 500. Yeah. I would have generated over $500,000 in profit from Free the Dream had we had 1,000 people there. And all of that could have happened with the same setup that we had last year, which is me and my wife working on the dreaming and planning and putting together of just our talks and our speaker team and stuff like that, and making decisions on design and the feel and the atmosphere and the music and all that other stuff. And we hired an event management team, our event production team, our good friends over at Brady Made Events. And we hired them. They took care of everything. They negotiated the venue contracts. They hired all of the caterers, the coffee and tea setup. They did all the art. They hired the artists to do the coffee sleeves and the video animations and the set design. They just presented all of that stuff to us, and we paid them on a contract basis to put our event together. And so I know for a fact that for me to be able to do an event between 1,000 to 5,000 people will require no more people on my team than what I already have, which is me and Stephanie, or Stephanie and I. And with our contracted help, with Brady Made Events. And when it scales up from there, you know what? I'm confident that Brady Made Events could help us get to 20 or 30,000 people without adding a lot more people to my team. Now, here's what I can tell you is when I get to the place where this thing really becomes profitable, I'm not looking at hiring marketing employees for me, but I will look to get to contract out either a marketer or a sales person or a sales team or a sales company like Brady Made Events, but only on the marketing side, to help me market this thing. And I can do that on a contract basis as well. So to answer your question is, I love Pat. I love Pat Flynn. He's got a great team and stuff like that. My friend Ray Edwards has several employees now. My friend Michael Hyatt has a lot of employees, and my friend Michael Stelzner has a lot of employees. I don't desire the life that they have right now. I'm not saying that I'm trying to avoid what they have, but one thing I can tell you is that I will only make those steps when there's so much extra financial resources available for those things, and there's a buffer so that any kind of silly things that come along that might bring a dip in income, that I'll have such a big reserve that I can float the company on my own with an emergency fund of 6 to 12 months, worst case scenario. So those are the kinds of things that I've been thinking. I'm very intentional about how I'm building my business, and I have been coaching myself along the way. And you know what? I'm having fun. I really am. You've heard me in a bunch of different ways over the past 18 months, ever since I left podcasting, podcast coaching and consulting. And I got to tell you, I'm not going to say that there hasn't been troubles, that there hasn't been some poor decisions that I've made. I'm not saying there hasn't been financial stress or pressure, but the thing is that there was a season of, a good solid, September through April. So that's 10, 11, 12, that's 7 months. There were 7 months of significant financial stress. It's all gone. I'm telling you, it's 100% eliminated because of how I've built my business and what I've been able to accomplish. And yes, I could grow faster, but I don't feel led to. Not yet. It's coming, my friends. It's coming. That's what I wanted to share with you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Cliff Ravenscraft Show. I appreciate each and every one of you. And yes, I do hope to see you this September in Franklin, Tennessee, September 13th through the 15th. If you have always experienced a gap in between what it is that you say you're going to do and what you end up doing, or if there's a gap between what you feel like you ought to be doing in this world and how you should be spending your days on a consistent basis and actually how you're living your life today, I encourage you to come to Free the Dream and learn how to break through to new levels of success. I look forward to seeing you in Franklin, Tennessee, September 13th through the 15th. Go right now, freethedreamconference.com. freethedreamconference.com. Get your tickets before the price goes up. Until next time, I encourage you to take everything you do to the next level.